It's Offside with Hawes and McGuire.
Ready?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. There you go. Look at no foam.
Yeah, that's a first for you.
It's not shaking. It's, you know what I mean? It hasn't
Shaken, but
you know what? I can't drink it. I'm actually on this. I'm on this
dry February.
Well, because I kind of failed with dry January. It was not a failure. It was more of a. It was just damp.
Are you blaming me?
It was. You may have been responsible. There was a bit of involved in that.
Geez.
But to be honest with you, what kind of person am I if I don't have the willpower to say no? And I think we know exactly what kind of person I am.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't hold you guilty to that, especially if you're going to try and back it up by
taking it into February.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing.
So,
I figure, as long as I get, a number of days, string them together in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's just that's we call that rubbing it in.
Sorry, brother.
Okay, so listen, we have a number of things to talk
Offside with Hawes and McGuire.
Oh, that's right. Did we do that yet?
Yeah, no, whatever.
Okay. Hey, welcome. It's Offside with Hawes and McGuire. I'm Hawes.
I'm McGuire.
There we go. Okay, we're all set. Now, so the first thing we're going to talk about is our Hosie and Brown hockey pool.
Boy, oh boy.
In which the winner gets to go to Ireland, and it's getting closer. Like the All-Star break done.
Yeah.
Right? So All-Star game over.
January
done.
done.
Current stats. Okay? And I'll be posting this here so people can see it. The leader with 1,224.5
Take me to your leader.
points is Blades of Stiegl.
Okay.
Okay? Stiegl being a brewery, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing behind it. Good in the room, they said, which is Chuck.
Yeah.
Okay? He's at 1173.5. Now, when we move further down, I'm going to jump down to your son. Okay?
Damn.
Rory.
Yeah.
Rory is currently in 5th place.
Okay.
However, he has 35 games in hand.
Holy shit.
So there's an opportunity for a search there. Okay. Now I'm going to move down even further. So because tied in 6th place, okay, with
Are you sure these in games in hand and they're not reflective of injury?
No.
Okay.
Games in hand. The games
right.
played.
Okay.
Okay. And that is and so basically, and it's across the league, right? Depending on the player and the league, right?
Yeah.
So Q has like 50 games in hand.
He's in 6th.
He's in 6th place.
Okay.
So there is a huge opportunity. This is not by any means, shape, or form, over. Now, I'm going to point out something that it's not an anomaly. It's actually kudos to this individual who registered 2 teams. Okay?
Yeah.
And he is currently in 3rd and 4th place.
That's insane.
With both teams. Okay?
So just a couple subtle changes.
Well, you know what?
all
And
he
for
would've
him, so here's the thing. That's Dave Zivkovic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
St. Mark's teacher.
Formerly, yeah.
Yeah, formerly,
he
yeah.
retired.
He did, okay.
Yeah. And he was a winger. He was my winger last night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is tight. Now I decided to analyze further.
Yeah.
And see what are these people who are winning doing.
Penalty minutes.
You know what? And who are their
Yeah.
selections? So and this is the interesting thing. You would think guys would have a lot of similar players.
Yeah.
They don't.
No?
No. So out of the 20 players plus 2
Yeah.
spares, so 22 players.
Yeah.
Okay. Between number 1, okay, which is Tim Jones, who is the Blades of Stiegl.
Okay.
Okay. And number 2, which is Chuck Yates.
Yeah.
Okay. Good in the room, they said.
Good in the room, they said. Yeah.
Okay. There are only 4 common players.
That's crazy.
Only 4 common players.
I can't believe that.
It isn't. But it is. It's true.
I don't believe it.
Well, are you calling me a liar?
I says pardon.
So I snap.
I stop. I lose it.
You know, my wife really likes your Blackhawks. That's one of my favorite.
There's so many.
Yeah,
He's got an X-rated one that's just.
there's
it's
a few of them.
on the floor laughter. On the floor.
So anyhow, so isn't that interesting?
It is. That's
I would have thought there'd be a
very
lot of
surprising.
similarity,
Yeah,
right?
very
So
surprising.
that's absolutely not. And so and just to note the players of similarity, okay, the Kachuk brothers,
okay.
okay,
Yeah.
which Hagel from Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Okay, who is actually like performing incredibly well.
Yeah.
This Hughes fella
Yeah.
from fucking Vancouver who just came out of nowhere to have the season of a lifetime.
Quinner. Yeah.
Like,
I was leading the
unbelievable.
league in scoring
you know
there
what?
for
They
the
made
first.
him captain. That was it. It changed everything.
Maybe so. Well, all three of them are
Are good hockey
yeah.
players.
They're one of the stories in the NHL this year. The three of them.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, and that's it. Those are the similar players. That's it. And technically, the Tkachuk brothers are only one guy, right? No, I'm just kidding.
What do you mean? Oh, I wasn't following that.
Yeah. No. I was just, I was kind of being.
Yeah.
I think the term is facetious.
Ah, gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's big words, but
yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know. All right, so isn't that pretty exciting? So as we head into this, there's a lot
up in the air
opportunity
still.
here. It could
Some
be up in
games
the air.
played to be the month of February and into March will be interesting. To see.
Absolutely. Well, this is where people are going to start racking up some points too.
Trade deadline could
That's right.
result in some roster moves. Of course, injuries are always a concern.
Absolutely.
So-
Not to mention, I believe there is the NHL is trying to thwart our winners, and by just benching guys and giving them suspensions
Bastards.
without hearings, for
I know.
Christ's sake.
Unheard of.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay. Now, so you know what we're going to talk about next
No.
is viewer feedback.
Okay.
So have you had any feedback?
I always get feedback.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to
Yeah.
hear what some of your recent feedback has been.
Really enjoying the Duguay interview.
Yeah?
Yeah. Got a number of messages
Okay, good.
on that.
Yeah.
On the Duguay interview. One person in particular really upset that the fair story didn't continue.
Yeah.
wanted to know the, come on, he must have told you.
So there's more to the story. There's absolutely more to the story, but not that we could broadcast.
Yeah.
And we'll just let your imagination take it from there. Okay? But there's more Duguay coming today.
More
We have
Duguay
more
today.
Duguay today.
Yeah.
It's actually a Duguay week, I think.
Duguay week. Yeah. I must message him and make sure that he's aware.
It's
Up
that
there.
would be a
I
good
think
thing.
he is because I put it on Instagram and we follow each
Well,
other.
he hasn't sent us any
note of any sort,
note saying,
especially 'cause-
no cease and desist order
No,
anyway.
no.
So
That'd be the bulk of the feedback I got from the last year.
That's it?
It was
Okay.
on the Duguay interview, yeah.
So I got feedback.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone who also sometimes gives you feedback, they told me that. They said, and they called on the phone.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And
Yeah.
said, hey, I just wanted to talk. And I answered, and they were gracious that I answered my phone, which, why the heck wouldn't I?
It's a rarity today.
Well, I guess it is. So anyway, says, first of all, love what you're doing with the interviews. I think it's a great idea. And we had said who we had interviewed in the last episode, right? The
Yeah.
Espo thing and whatever. So very excited, very interested in doing this and continue to watch. Did mention that I shouldn't wear those pants anymore.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, those gray pants you were wearing when we were sitting, and apparently I had my legs crossed, and apparently I looked like a woman. Okay.
Okay.
And the pants were a little bit too tight, and
Oh.
and so this is the kind of feedback I'm getting.
okay.
Okay. And so as a result, I'm not wearing those gray pants at least for a little while.
One
here's
comment's worth 1,000. There's probably 1,000 people feeling the same
you know
way.
what? And to be fair, I'll put my thighs up against anybody around. You know what I mean? Crosby and I
Yeah.
are similar thighs.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
The word thunder comes to mind.
Well, no, not. What do you mean thunder? That means like that. That hurts. That's hurtful.
Oh.
Okay, that's hurtful. My
I
thighs
was
are
trying to
big.
be complimentary.
Very
like,
strong, very strong.
Yeah,
legs,
well,
very
thunder's
legs.
strong,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no,
Thunder
absolutely.
crack,
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Thunder,
whatever.
lightning,
Thunder. Yeah, it's not. very-
thunderbolt,
That's right. Well, there's a few bolts.
days
down
of
there.
thunder.
Yes. All right. Now we're going to talk about the NHL All-Star Game.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Wow, All-Star weekend.
Weekend. Well.
Yeah.
Okay. All-Star Festival.
All-Star Festival in Toronto hit an absolute home run.
Yeah.
They hit an absolute home run.
so?
From the ratings, up 80+% across the board.
80%.
Across the board. Yeah, 80% from last year.
So there were 8 new viewers.
Oh yeah, a whole lot more than 8. You
I'm
had
just
they were running around 1.3 to 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Viewership, so it was up significantly. I think there's no doubt about it. The strength of the skills contest, which everybody has been told, we've been told that Connor McDavid played a role in
Creating,
although there really wasn't necessarily anything different per se, but they rolled it all out collectively without any of the other gimmick bullshit that they've used in years past.
Yeah.
Ironically, then Connor went and won it.
Wow. I mean, let's face it. At present, he's the best hockey player in the NHL.
He's the best on the planet.
You know.
And so he deserves, and he should have won it. It's interesting that he won it on the strength of winning 3 separate contests.
He won the contests outright. He didn't lose anything.
Yeah, no, he did.
What did he
lose?
He
didn't win the passing, and he didn't win the one-on-one with the goalies. In fact, he didn't do well there at all. He got Gorgachev, and he didn't do well on that. He scored on his very first shot, and then I don't know, he may have got one other goal, but and the passing he didn't win that either. But he won 3 events, and I think placed in the other.
Okay.
The thing is, Chris, it's the events he won. He won them substantially.
Wow,
like the shooting.
Like 4 seconds on that, and
the relay thing was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's the last guy to go, and even the fastest lap, because he hasn't won the last 2 years, right? And Barzal beat him 2 years ago, and when Barzal busted the 14-5, I believe it was, I just went, it's over. Like, it's over. Connor's never had one. Barzal was 14-7, I think. Okay. And somewhere at 14-7, 14-8. Connor's never had one under 7, 14-7. And I said, it's over. Barzal's going to win again. And Connor goes last. And did you see him in that first corner?
Well, honestly,
unbelievable.
You know what?
First turn.
The control. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what? Listen, I'm not as fast a skater as McDavid. But there are times when I'm making a cut and I'm a little nervous. Right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
The sheer speed.
Yeah, exactly. But can you imagine? He's whipping around. You know what? I was very impressed at his skill, but not that it was unexpected. Okay. Now, what did you think of the actual format? First of all, I'm gonna be honest. I fucking hated the 3-on-3.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Oh well.
No, because it.
Yeah.
You know what? It's not an All-Star game anymore.
Well, it is.
No, it's fucking...
When has there been one?
Well, back in the days. When we used to watch it, when you used to watch in the 70s, 80s, the All-Star Game was a real game. There was
days are gone.
There were defensemen playing.
Days are gone. Those days are gone. You can't look at it that way. Those days are gone.
What are you, non-binary now?
Yep.
Like,
you can't. You cannot look at it that way. Those days are gone because the players don't give a crap about that. There's a little bit, like you could see in the final, Matthews and Marner in front of their home crowd. They were exerting quite a bit of effort. I felt anyway. They were.
But when you have that, that 3-man outfit, you don't end up getting to see why a Larry Robinson was an all-star. Like, we're not, I'm using Larry as a prime example because we just interviewed him, and he was an oak tree on defense. The Chris Prongers, who were Hall of Fame level defensemen.
Yeah.
They're not going to be shown in this.
Well,
and so it doesn't do a value to the whole league.
What's the number one sport in North America? NFL football. What do they do in their All-Star game? They play flag football. They play flag. So
but they still have to cover a guy.
Yeah, you got to cover. You got to cover a guy. There were guys
there. They got their
hands there wasn't a 3-man break. Listen, you're not wrong, but you have to understand.
Oh, hang on, stop.
There is no solution.
Stop right there. Stop right there. What was that you said?
You're mostly not wrong. It's glorified 3-on-3, which already is. I mean, that's why the NHL is thinking of instituting the rule about not having guys being able to come back out and whatever you call it.
Yeah, re-out.
Whatever. So, whatever. Yeah, everyone knows.
Collect their thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. So they're thinking of curtailing that in some way, shape, or form. The game is the game. It's been a joke for 30 years. Ever since full salary disclosure, players have stopped caring. And the old format, there was only one format that worked in that time period. It was when North America played against the Worlds. They did it for 5 years. It was the only game that produced a little bit of intensity because one side or the other, which the North Americans won 3 out of the 5. And the first year they did it, a very well-known writer in Ottawa here wrote a very serious piece.
Who was that?
Well,
was it Roy McGregor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you just say Roy McGregor wrote a piece?
I don't know. Anyways, Roy and I
like Roy
and I are solid all day now. I consider him actually a good friend. And it wasn't always that way.
Really?
Yeah. There's a story there, but it's so much in the past that it's way too boring to bring up. Point is, Roy wrote a story. I believe he was in the Ottawa Citizen at the time, in the page 3, doing an editorial piece. So it wasn't always sports. But he wrote a story saying that he was really concerned that the North American guys, because the lack of skill in North America at that time in 1998 was so apparent, they were going to get run right out of Dodge. And ironically, in that very first game, it was so similar to the 87 Canada Cup Game 3, even though it's a decade later,
right,
when Canada was down 3-0, stormed back, ended up winning. That was Wayne DeMario, we all know, September 15, 87, beautiful. And in the All-Star Game, Team North America got down 3-0 early as well. And Mark Messier was mic'd up on the bench, and he said, "Hey, boys, I think they're taking this a little serious here, so let's go." And that's on the microphone. You don't hear that in this 3-on-3 right now.
Yeah.
You don't hear it in the games that preceded North America versus the world when the scores were 16-14.
Yeah,
and it was basically a basketball All-Star game. You can't say the NBA All-Star game, Chris, is any reflection of how a basketball game is played, and I don't even watch, and I know that. So let's not hang hockey out to dry when there is no solution.
I'm not hanging them out to dry. I would like to see more of a game that actually showcases.
Okay, what's the solution?
The All-Stars. Well, you know what? At least
there's only one.
I would say have a full. Now, part of the problem is the small ice surface, right? Again, but I would say have a regular 5-man game. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. With the same, we'll call it. Almost pickup like it was, right? Okay, because it was very quick. It was very, very much like pickup. Okay, play it that way. Don't play it like a real game, but have it be freewheeling and all that stuff. But then you add the element of, defensive play to it. You get the guys who are.
There wasn't any though.
No, I know there wasn't, and there generally isn't going to be as much. But they're going to have a little bit, and it's not going to be the, I don't know. I just think it doesn't showcase all of the All-Stars. And if I were a defenseman, I would be very disappointed in what was presented to me as being able to attend an All-Star game. Because, when you're a kid, there's a couple of things that you dream of as a hockey player, okay? You've got your Olympics, you've got your World Juniors, you've got your Stanley Cup, which is the Holy Grail.
Well, very few times have the Olympics been thought of as a kid in Canada.
But you know what? Now it is.
Maybe.
Now it is.
Yeah,
it's now
maybe.
become that. But that's okay.
It's still Stanley Cup number one.
And frankly,
Stanley Cup number one by far.
That's the Holy Grail. But at the end of the day, the All-Star game, being noted as an All-Star in the NHL, is a major accomplishment.
Well, the comments from a lot of the guys who had either played for the first time or had only been there a couple of times were very favorable to that point. Right, they were saying how much of an honor it was to be there this weekend, be involved, this, that, and everything else.
Well, you're not going to say this sucks. I mean, they're not.
No, but I mean, Kucherov basically did in his attitude and the skills. I mean, hung over, hammered, whatever. He treated it like nothing. Then he went out and scored the first goal, the first game, on a nice breakaway, made a nice play. Obviously he was stone cold sober for the game. But the game's a game. The only way you ever get back anywhere of any intensity is have the defending Stanley Cup champion play a collection of All-Stars, which is what it was from 1947 to 1967. Those, other than 2 years in the early 50s when they played first team against the second team, they both ended up in ties because the teammates played against each other and nobody wanted to hit. So they said to hell with it. Whereas the other games all became a badge of honor to the defending Stanley Cup champion, or conversely, the All-Stars who were playing them said, let's go get them. And so you had some intensity because you had a full team that were going to take care of each other if stuff started to go sideways, be it on the scoreboard or elsewhere. So you got a game that had a competitive environment. The games that you and I are talking about, what we grew up watching, that were competitive, post-67, had men who still gave a shit. They still played with pride and did not want to get embarrassed out there. So there still was hitting. There still was penalties, for God's sake, in the 70s. Yeah. And the games were low scoring. Nobody came close to double digits. Right. And a lot of the scoring was, 4-2, 4-3, sort of thing. I'd look at the games in the 70s, they dotted the scores with that. What you're going to get today is you're going to get. The skills contest was outstanding. The draft has seemed to be some take it, some leave it, and the game's a game.
it would have been nice if, and this is where they're going to go. You know that Bublé and Bieber are going to be on a team next year. They're going to actually be playing.
No, they won't.
Oh yeah. And
no,
listen,
not a hope in hell.
In his mother's house coat that he was wearing.
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't matter though.
Okay.
He was a huge hit.
You know what? I think
he took warm up in full gear, went out there, and he couldn't hardly take a shot because every single player came up and wanted a picture. And Bublé, whatever. I mean,
well, you like Bublé?
Oh yeah, he's fine.
You think Bieber's better than Bublé?
No, I don't think anybody is. I could do without him. I don't care. But I understand the value of these guys.
You can do without Bublé?
Yep.
I'm a huge Bublé fan.
Yeah,
You
are.
I am. Oh no,
okay.
absolutely.
No, that's fine.
I think it's great.
I'll bring in anybody. I don't care.
We don't have a lot of crooners anymore. You know what? I love his music. I'm not. You know what? Listen. I'm not against that. Bieber has he's the modern music.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's something about an orchestra, a band. You know what I mean?
I know, but they're not out there in the All-Star game. You're just talking about now when the guys
exactly,
playing.
who they are.
But I mean, look, I don't care about
actually,
celebrities.
you know what?
But I know we need them. They're part of the show. Look, the weekend was an overwhelming success. It was. I feel it was. And
I'd like to hear
the ratings prove that it was.
So I would love to hear.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. You did say I was mostly right.
But
the
game, because the game is the game.
Yeah.
You're never going to get a competitive hockey game. They went to 3-on-3 specifically because they said, look, we play 5-on-5. The guys don't give a shit. The games are almost 20-20. What do we got to do? Well, we're doing 3-on-3. People seem to like it. We know they're not going to hit, and it's going to be, we'll give $1 million to the winning team. So we'll hope that as the thing progresses in the game, it'll ratchet up the intensity a little bit, which is what's happened.
Right.
And you do see lower scoring affairs for the most part. And despite playing 3-on-3, and you are seeing some efforts, like you saw, the host team, Matthews, Marner, that group, Nylander, they tried. They wanted to win that game. There's no doubt about it. If you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. They went out there, and as McDavid's team made it 5-4, they turned it up. Yeah. They turned it up a notch there and ended up winning 7-4. So that's the best you're going to get. That's the best you're going to get today.
I guess you know what? I don't have to like it.
No, you certainly don't, because most people in the media or anybody that speaks on a microphone, like us or mainstream, will call it a negative event. That just seems to be inherent if you comment publicly on it. I don't know what that is.
I'm not saying negative about it. I was not pleased with the 3-on-3 of the game, but that's and for what it is. That being said,
then you followed up by saying that give me what we had in the 70s. Yeah. That ain't coming back, buddy.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I don't have to like it.
Okay, but but then you're just complaining for the sake of complaining.
No, what if it does come back? What if we change? What if there's a new league that comes out? Let's even say the Chicks playing and a professional women's league. Which,
they did their thing.
I know they had a game.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way they marketed it. They said 3-on-3 girl action. And, I mean, sure, they got a lot of viewers, but they misled me. I'm telling you I was misled. I thought it was going to be something very different. But all that being
Great
said,
way to segue off the All-Star thing. But overwhelming success. Ratings proved it. Unbelievable weekend, and I loved it. Loved it all.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to move on. So you know what we have right now? Because we've posted the All-Star Game, apropos to that, we've got an Ask Liam segment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go to that. Hey, welcome to our segment we call Ask Liam, which is where viewers ask a question, and then I ask Liam that question, and then he tries to tell me the answer from that. And if he doesn't know it, I get a pitcher of beer, but I'll be postponing it until March. That's all.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
Because he's on dry February.
Okay, so here's the.
This is from Tom on a car phone on the 401, I think.
No, you know what? Hang on, where the hell? Oh, here, it's over here. Okay, I got this correct. Oh, so we were talking about the goals being scored and how games used to be close.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In the All-Star.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a shutout in NHL All-Star Game history?
There has. Only one. That's
one.
why I think it's significant when you ran the questions by me.
I have a question. Who gets the credit for that? Because isn't a different goalie every period?
No. That only started in 91, 92.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was only two goaltenders that would play on a team in a game. at that time, and that's what it was in 1967 was the last year. So two things about the 67 year. That was the first year that they moved the All-Star Game to the middle of the season. It used to be played at the start of the season.
Okay.
So you'd play it was the first event.
All right.
It was
so that would be kind of a, sweating out the booze.
More or less. I mean, the season would be starting 48 hours later and stuff. But you had some interesting things, some guys who did some things because the season hadn't started. So you had some, some like, for example, when the NHL rule came in that you could come out of the penalty box after a power play goal was scored.
Okay.
So the very first game that ever was played
was an All-Star game?
Was an All-Star game.
Really?
That happened in 1957-58. I digress. But 10 years later, in 67, the Montreal Canadiens were the defending Stanley Cup champions. They had won the Cup in 66.
So playing the All-Star game.
So it was a 66-67 season. The next season, as defending Stanley Cup champions, they played the game against a collection of All-Stars.
Okay. And how many All-Stars would be on that team?
The full roster.
So 3 lines?
4 lines.
4 lines.
Yeah, because they wanted to load it up. Actually, in 67, there may have only been 3 lines, come to think of it. 4 lines came later as the NHL expanded, when they expanded teams. Not the first expansion, but the second ones, Buffalo, Vancouver, Islanders, Atlanta, and then Washington, Kansas City in 74, 72, and 70, respectively, those years. But that year, there may have only been 3 lines and 6D and 2 goaltenders. But Montreal beat the All-Stars 3-0. And the goaltending duties were shared by Charlie Hodge, which is a pretty well-known name.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
He won Stanley
No relation
Cups.
to Ken Hodge.
No relation to Ken Hodge, who was going to be on our list of interviewers, but our players we interviewed. But Charlie Hodge, and the name that is the really good trivia question is Gary Bauman. Bauman, B-A-U-M-A-N. So he played the second period and made 10 saves. Hodge
Any relation to Alex Bauman, the swimmer?
No relation.
Okay.
No relation, although I think the spelling's the same, eh?
I think so.
I think so. I'm not positive, but I think so. But that's the only shutout. All-Star games started, other than the games that were done for specific players or families because somebody had passed away, of which there was 4. Most people think there's just 2. There was actually 4. The first ever All-Star game that was played with players that were cobbled together to play as a collection of All-Stars for a charity game was in 1908 for Hod Stewart, who had drowned in the summer. He's a Hall of Famer, by the way. And they did a fundraiser for the families and for the family. And in that game, Lester Patrick and Art Ross shook hands. 2 legendary names in hockey history. Yeah. They shook hands, and it's called, historically, the first ever handshake in hockey.
Oh, is that
it's
right?
The tradition for shaking hands after a game actually began. Because they played, not only did they play each other in that game, but they later that same year played each other in the for Stanley Cup.
And then they shook again.
They shook again
in the Stanley Cup.
In the Stanley Cup, and their teammates took witness of this. And so some of them came together and shook hands as well. Because back in the day, and for decades, there was no formal line where you went through. When the series ended and the Stanley Cup winner was won, most of the guys just came together. That's why when you see the greatest shot, the greatest picture in NHL history is Rocket Richard and Sugar Jim Henry from the Boston Bruins shaking hands. You should throw that up, actually. Sugar Jim Henry and Rocket Richard, April of 52 after Game 7. That picture, and you can see other players in behind them shaking hands as well, but they're not in a line.
Right.
They just came together. But anyway, I digress. So the only shutout in All-Star Game history was Charlie Hodge and Gary Bauman, Montreal Canadiens, 1967. It was the first time that the game went to mid-season. Habs won 3-0. John Ferguson got 2 goals. Henri Richard got 1. Fergie should have got MVP, but they gave it to Henri Richard. Most people feel that because Fergie absolutely... He got into it with Norm Allman, okay? He got into it with Norm Allman. These are names everybody knows. Yeah. He got into it with Norm Allman, and they were giving it to each other pretty good with sticks. And then Fergie hauled off and just drilled Allman right in the nose. It was blood and everything. It wasn't called a fight. Fergie got a bunch of penalties in the All-Star. That's the way it was.
Yeah.
And as a result, they gave the MVP to Pocket Rocket. Fergie probably deserved it. Having said that, that's the only shutout in All-Star Game history, and it's a good trivia question because it wasn't just Charlie Hodge, it was Gary Bauman, who only played 2 games for the Montreal Canadiens in his career.
Oh, really?
Then he was picked up by the Minnesota North Stars, where he played, I believe it was 32 games over 2 seasons before going back to the minors. He was an outstanding goaltender out at NCAA, Michigan Tech, same place Tony Esposito played.
Right.
But he couldn't translate it to the NHL.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for that. That's been Ask Liam for this week, and we'll be back next week with another Ask Liam. All right, we are back, and you know what? We're going to talk about some other stuff right now, okay? One of the things I wanted to bring up is that we have this interview series.
Yeah.
Where we interview legends, people who are famous, who are legends for many other reasons but mostly for hockey, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to show everybody this next legend who's the same legend. We're continuing.
Part 2?
Part 2. Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2 because he's a francophone.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So hailing from Valcaron, Ontario, okay, just outside of Sudbury, Collis, okay, and formerly attending. I think Confed High School or something, maybe MacJack. I'm not sure. Should have asked him which school he went to.
Well, you should have for sure, because
I
you
should
would
have
know.
asked him, exactly. But I would think from where he lived, he would have gone to Confed.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny because
Okay,
we have
but
a
he
Confed here in Ottawa. We
but
did, I
we
believe
did,
it's closed.
or he might have gone to MacJack. You never know.
Yeah.
But anyways, so we're going to continue our interview series with Ron Dugay. So here we go.
That's my first day in New York.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to like it here. So I did a few laps in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So-
Because you love swimming.
Yeah. But to get back to fast forward, now I'm in training camp. And because now I've been taught how to train. And like, I'm going all summer. I am going to make this team because I like what I've seen already. So I get to training camp and I'm in great shape. Now, a lot of the guys like Hodges there, Espo, Rod Gilbert, Steve Vickers. So we're sitting, I'll never forget, they're sitting in the dressing room and the trainer comes out and he brings Steve Vickers, Espo, it might have been Hodges also his bag. They hadn't opened it up yet from the season before. I'm like, you guys haven't skated yet? Oh no, we're starting today. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. You have not trained? No, first day of training, it's today. Okay, get on the ice, and I'm like, I'm going. Well, about 20 minutes into it, I get a tap on it. Hey, Espo, hey, dudes, you're going to need to slow down because you're making us look bad. I said, okay, just kind of go at our pace, and then you can pick it up. After a couple of weeks, we're going to get into it. We're just getting into shape. Okay, all right, practice is over. Back then, it was just one a day. So, we're having a team meeting. Team meeting, first day. Okay, great. This place called the Pub. I think it was called the Pub. So we go over there. It's probably 1 in the afternoon. And so everyone's there as a team meeting. Well, that team meeting was just getting to know each other. Right. Well, by 5 o'clock, all the older guys, you can tell they've had enough, right? So they go home to their wives. And Donnie Maloney was not there, but Gressner, Dave Maloney, the singles paddock, he was there. They said, okay, dudes, we're going back, we're going to go take a nap, and we're going back out at 8. This is the first day of training camp. Wow. We did that for 3 weeks. I'm like, how in the heck are we going to get in shape? And this back then was in Long Island, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, wow, this is what it's like. I've never heard this in the NHL. So they were just bonding, drinking, and getting to know each other. And so I had to maneuver my way through how much do I drink, how much do I do this, I got to skate, and I want to make the team. So that was my introduction to the New York Rangers. But I want to continue on Espo. When someone asked me who's my favorite teammate, and I think I've had a lot of good teammates, fun teammates for different reasons, but Espo was probably my favorite. Yeah. Only because he was a combination of a father figure and an older brother. Yeah. Older brother because he liked to have fun. Yeah. and so I saw what he would do on the ice. He would show up. He had his game face on, competed hard. He was only, I think, 36 at the time. So he was still a good player. So I got to see him beat Phil Esposito.
Yeah.
And that's when things were tough. So he, a lot of guys are hitting him, but he had a toughness to him.
Yeah.
And so I got to see him as a player, his leadership on the ice, in the dressing room. And then I got to travel with him on the road and hang out with him. He's just a blast.
You also recorded a song with him.
We did that also, yeah. Hockey Sock Rock.
Yeah.
And so he was just a guy that had that balance of serious but fun. We got to have fun, but we got to get serious. You got to compete every shift. So, and that, Espo, the team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals in '79, we were led by Phil Esposito.
Yeah.
And he was kind of on his way out.
Yeah.
And what happened is that they were trying to phase him out, but Donnie Maloney comes in, right?
Yeah.
And they put Donnie on his line with Donnie Murdoch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this line kicks in.
The Mafia line.
Yeah, and they were like one of the better lines of the playoffs. While they're trying to get Espo out, all of a sudden, Phil takes it to another level.
Yeah.
And they were a good line in the playoffs. We go to the finals. And one of the reasons we went to the finals, because we weren't expected to even, I don't think we were expected to even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we bonded together. And it's one thing that you look at teams now, how much fun are they having, right?
Yeah.
Because they're always divided, separated, go in different directions, private jet, let's go home. There's no hanging out. We hung out, we had a blast.
Yeah.
We might have run out of steam by the time we hit Montreal. But a lot of that was a guy like Espo. Carol Vanden was another one.
Yeah.
Bad, like to have fun. JV was in net. John Davidson
Yeah.
was in net. We all had fun together. We played hard together. We fought for each other. But, Espo, to this day, would probably, because the impression that he left on me, he was probably my favorite. And of course, I played with Gretzky. I got to see the magic of Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
I got to play with Mary Lemieux on his line.
Yeah.
Gretz, I didn't play with him as much. When he came to the Kings, I was more a third, fourth line guy. But I got to see the magic of Gretz, to see what he was really made of, in practice, off the ice. And he's another guy, I guess, with Gretz, is like, he played hard, but he wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
He loved his teammates, and he had a passion for the game. When you look at what he went through, all the Stanley Cups he won, and in between, because I played Canada Cup with Gretz, when you look at, there's no break, not much of a break. You win the Stanley Cup, and all of a sudden, now he's got to go play for Canada Cup.
I know.
Canada.
I know.
He was just happy to go.
Did you see
Always.
anything different with him? Like in terms of practice or off ice that made him this, like I understand he must have been given, all of you to a degree, some God-given talent that you then worked and extrapolated to become what you were. But him at his level, like, did you see anything, practice or in the dressing room, or off the ice, anything that made him a little different?
He was just consistent.
Yeah.
He practiced the way he played. It's not like he plays at a fast pace.
No.
He's just a magician with the puck, and he's always very calm, confident. And so what you saw in the game, a lot of it you saw on the ice. Like, he wasn't slacking off. Yeah. And I've listened to several of his interviews recently, and he talks about his dad, how his dad would speak to him with a lot of wisdom. Yeah. And he let him know early on, listen, you're great. He's great. You see how you're great, but you have to be great all the time. You can't slack off. And Gretz talked about, he had played the one game, I don't know how old he was, maybe 12. It was at the end of the season, and it was kind of an exhibition game. And Gretz didn't take it real seriously, and they lost 8-1. And his dad on the way home addressed it, say, so Gretz, and a lot of people wanted to go see him, right? Yeah. Phenom, right? Of course. And they lost 8-1, and his dad was talking, so how'd you feel? You played okay, but he said, well, it's no big deal, it's just not. And that's when he said, look, just so you know, you had a lot of people come out and watch you. And so that's kind of a pressure on you, but you have to be on all the time. Yeah. And Gretz says, I took that for the rest of my career. He said, even every time I played an exhibition game, he says, I took it like it was a game 7. And so that's kind of what I saw in him. Wow. There was no slacking off. It's not like he had to be first in line, but when he practiced well. And you didn't see him sloppy. Yeah. And he was just a quiet leader. It's the same thing as Mary Lemieux, same thing, quiet leader. Yeah. They're not the loudest in the dressing room. When they do say something, there's a lot of importance to it. Yeah. But just quiet leader, and they like to have fun, but they perform. So I don't know. What was your question on Gretz?
Well, no, I think you just answered it. I seriously don't think it could have answered it any better.
All right, welcome back. And you know what? We love shooting the shot. We love shooting the shot with all these guys. And you know what? We have to put out a major thank you to our sponsor for that segment of the show. is Gib Patterson of Emerald, Cloverdale, and Anderson Links.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
All 3 golf courses, and so that it was my home golf course was Emerald Links.
Yeah.
Right. Yet I will tell everybody right here. Nothing to do with me. Wanted nothing to do with me. I got a great sales pitch, everything like that. He goes, "Oh, Liam McGuire, yeah, sure, okay." And so,
can we just tell us, like, wasn't that funny? Wasn't it great when we sat down with Gib and he ended up agreeing to come on, and then you and I were finishing breakfast and everything else, and I think Gib didn't eat, I don't think, that day. I think he was just having a coffee. And I ran by him the conversation I had with him the first time that I met him, and he remembered it instantly. When I asked him about Arnold Rice, and right away he went, "Oh, the gravel pits on the first line." He remembered it instantly. Chris, that's 40 years ago when I had that conversation with him.
He's no slouch, eh?
No, obviously not. I mean, he's a
no
very
slouch.
Successful businessman. By the way, for you golfing enthusiasts in the Ottawa area, they've done some great stuff on those tracks. Like the extra 9 on Emerald Links is outstanding 9 holes. And Anderson Links, that front 9, you better have the chin strap buckled up. It's a great test of golf.
You know what? I don't play Anderson or Cloverdale as often as I should because I'm so close.
Of course, Emerald's right here.
You know,
It's like your home track, really.
It is. It's my home track. I was a member.
Yeah.
While they had members.
Right.
I was a member, and now we're no longer a member. I'm a card holder.
Yeah.
It's a very special thing I got.
I believe it.
Believe it. You know.
Gibbs a beauty.
You know. Well, and
he's a beauty.
I got to tell you, can I say this? If I can't say it, I'll edit it out.
Okay.
Okay. But he's also an old school guy who will, call a spade.
Yep.
Do things that are completely inappropriate.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I think I told you this story once before, but maybe I not. So a friend of mine's daughter was working at the clubhouse. Okay.
Yeah.
And she was flustered. The printer roll had got all jammed, and she had to change that. And then you know how guys come in. So 2 groups come in at one time. So now you got 8 guys lined up waiting to pay for their green fees. And she's trying to change this thing. So he walks in there, and he's like, "What the hell's going on here? Like, why is it so slow?" And she goes, "I'm just trying to whatever, blah, change the roll." And he goes, and he turns to the guy and says, "Well, it's a good thing she's good looking."
Well,
kind of like that.
Yeah, that's an old school thought, and
it's like,
nothing wrong with that.
No, you know what? But it was, something you can't say nowadays.
Yeah, you
right?
can't. Yeah, but he can, and and I'm sure nobody really lost an eye over it or whatever. But today there'd be 1,000 people up in arms or whatever. Yeah. But I love it. We thank him for coming on board. He's been a long-time friend. I know his wife. I know his family. And thanks, Gib, for coming on, buddy. And I love the fact that he remembered that initial conversation all those years ago. It's fantastic.
Well, and you know what? So as a result, I'm having the Ottawa inaugural Hickory Challenge.
Yeah.
This July the 19th.
Okay.
At Emerald Links.
Wow.
Yeah. Big tournament, big to do, baby.
Awesome.
Giving away, so here's the thing. On there's 4 par 3s.
Yeah.
There's cars, a trip to Ireland, not with us on this time.
Okay.
A different one. For 2 people.
Yeah.
To Ireland. Okay. On this. There's a couple of product/services companies that are putting it up, but all $25,000 prizes on the par 3s.
Wow, incredible, man.
Good
for you.
On top of a whole bunch of things.
And at Emerald.
At Emerald. It's going to be at Emerald.
Awesome.
So we're doing that. It's also good. And it's the first ever Hickory event in the Ottawa area, okay, pre-1935 golf clubs. The first event since before 1935. They haven't had a Hickory event like this since 1935.
Well, paying back Gib already.
Well, this is the thing. I'm doing that.
So,
but also,
I love.
It's going to be established. So it's going to be a great time. I'm going to be there. Liam, you're going to be there.
Probably. What day of the week is
It's
it?
a Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean probably?
Yeah. What am I doing?
You got to commit. You're playing golf with my kind of clubs.
Where am I going to? I don't have a set of
Everyone's got a set of clubs. We're going to
Oh.
share. They're going to share. So each twosome, 2-man scramble. Okay. So you're not on your own.
Okay.
2-man scramble.
Okay.
And you share clubs with your partner.
All right. I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad because I play with Liam sometimes, and I have not had good rounds anytime I've played with you. It is unbelievable that I've shot, like, at best in the 90s.
Well, it's a tough sport.
Well, no, yeah, but I it's not my regular play. And so it frustrates me, right? And I was like, okay, now we're
Have
going
you
to go.
seen your swing on video?
You know what? There's 3 things you should never do. Watch yourself on video with a golf sling, sex, or hockey. You're going to be fucking disappointed no matter what.
I know, but that's how you get better.
No.
At sex,
no.
and specifically.
Listen, I can't get better at sex. I can tell you right now. I satisfy women. My wife is so satisfied, she doesn't want to even have sex anymore.
Oh,
That's how satisfied she
You've
is.
done the best.
So, I mean, you can't get better than that.
When you've had the best, right? Yeah.
So, anyhow.
Okay.
So that's it.
It's awesome that you're going Emerald Links. I think that's just great. Thanks again, Gib, for sponsoring Shooting the Shot, and it's just great to have you on board.
With Hawes and McGuire, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, okay, so moving on. This week was the premiere, okay,
Yep.
of a new documentary called The Chosen One. And it's not about God or Jesus.
Yeah.
It's about Alexander Daigle,
Yep.
okay? The Ottawa prospect, the Ottawa first-round draft pick, all that stuff. And you know what? Have you seen it?
No,
You know what? It's actually quite good.
I'm sure it is.
You know, it's quite good. And I'll tell you, it gave me a very complete... I always felt bad for the poor kid, okay? It makes me feel even more bad for him. And it was completely a whole new perspective on him. And
Is it?
yeah, because there's this idea that Alexander Daigle didn't give a shit about hockey. And you know what? That does not come through. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite. That he loved playing hockey, and he loved playing hockey so much that he went and played in Europe after.
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't need to, but he wanted to. And he went around,
Okay.
he bounced around the league. But you know what? A couple of times, so he had, and he tells within the story, he tells a story of how he had been doing well. He was in, and he had a great, whatever season it was, okay? And at the time, I think he was with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Okay.
Okay, and he had a great season. He comes back in, and the next year, Bobby Clark was the GM at the time, and the coach was Roger Nielsen.
Okay. Yeah.
And he says, "You're going to become a defensive forward." He goes, "Well, I just scored 26 goals. I want to hit 30." He goes, "Yeah, no, not doing it here. You're becoming a defensive forward." And within a short period of time, he got traded because they didn't utilize him. They decided, and it's one of the things that happens in the NHL, right? And some guys can't adapt, or you know what I mean? He didn't want to become a Selke Trophy winner. He wanted to become a Rocket Richard Trophy winner.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so politics and positioning, not to mention Bobby Clark didn't like a number of the things that he had done. He had gone to LA and he was dating Pamela Anderson, and that wasn't liked. So in a lot of ways, he was a victim of his personality on top of, you know what I mean? And that politics got into hockey. I really felt for the kid, actually. And being a guy who, understands growing up, and like most of us who are watching this, understand growing up dreaming of playing in the NHL and hockey and how we love it, and why I still play in my U65 league.
Yep.
Okay? That's what I'm calling it now.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
I made the U65.
Well, Jardine and the boys call it
Yeah.
the over 90.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's the U65 league.
Yeah.
I made it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So playing in that league, I feel like we play because we love to play hockey,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And I got that sense that he loves the sport. And is he sad and disappointed that his career didn't reach the realm of his heights?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen it. I will try and throw an eyeball on it. However, I do feel that I know his whole thstory. That's why I kind of threw back sort of a question, mostly rhetorical, but, is there really anything new? Because I know I'm one of the only few people that probably remember this, but Alexander Daigle did an op-ed piece,
Yeah. Yes.
a very, very detailed one about his career.
Yeah.
And it was very open, very raw, and very honest about dealings with his dad, dealings about how he really felt about the game, dealings with the pressure going first overall, the contract, the nurse's outfit, the whole 9 yards. that happened here in Ottawa between his draft year and the time till Ottawa moved him.
Right.
And, even through the World Juniors and everything. And I just thought, and I've also had the opportunity to work with Alex a couple times. He's not the warmest guy. He does not, like a lot of alumni, go out of his way, or he certainly didn't in the events that I worked with him. Very, kind, but not really a guy that went out of his way to make sure that the people who have paid a good buck are getting the most enjoyment out of a guy who does carry a pedigree as a first overall, played in the NHL, and did whatever.
Is it because people treat him differently? He does mention, he goes, he meets somebody and they bring up the nurse's uniform, or they bring up to him in these situations, right? And it's like, well, he's got
to carry it with him the rest of his life. But I guess somebody must have thought enough. First of all these specialty channels are dying for content anyway. I'm not saying, look, you watched it and you said it was good. That's good enough for me.
For content, we've got a hockey show.
Yeah.
Okay, a webcast using 3 cameras, by the way. Actually, to be fair, there's actually 4 cameras because the sound has a camera on it too. Because that's how we sync everything.
You're the best, man.
Yeah. So it's a 4-camera shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is and I'm editing this thing. I'm there.
I know, bud. I know.
I'm the fucking Steven Spielberg of Ottawa hockey.
Of Greeley. Which I love.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'll finish on this note. I'll try and watch all things hockey. Yeah. So I'll try and throw an eyeball on it. I said, I've worked a couple gigs with him. It hasn't been the best. I'm not going to lie. It hasn't been the best for whatever reason. I wish the guy well.
But did you blow smoke up his ass?
Of course I did. I had to interview him on I had to introduce him on microphone. I sang his praises like he was walking on water, like I do for all guys. I mean, that's what Liam McGuire does. I'll make you look like you're a 10-time Stanley Cup winner that scored a cajillion goals by the time I get finished doing an introduction with you guys.
Start with me, okay?
I will. I'll introduce you before our next show, and I could do it, and I have done it. I've been doing it for 43 years, so he's no different than thousands of other guys that I've introduced doing shows. However, he comes in with a pretty high pedigree given the status here. He's the second. Ottawa's first overall guy. A few years later, they take Chris Phillips. Yashin went the year before, number 2, and behind Hammerlick, as we all know. But whatever. When I saw the documentary, I didn't even know it was being made. And then I saw that, whatever you want to call it, and I saw it was coming out. I was going, well, what's going to be? Because that op-ed piece, it revealed everything. He revealed all his warts in that, which was, it had to be several thousands of words. He wrote it.
You know what's the revealing part of it? Is that he still loves the game.
Well,
and that was not apparent in the op-ed because he was at a low point in his life.
That's a good point.
You also have to...
That's a good point.
And listen, he was a young man still at that point discussing, and how to deal with things. And he even says, you look back, how are you going to articulate, you know what I mean? In his second language too. Not that he English is not his first language.
No, but he's
a francophonist.
Yes, but he's very, very good in English. That was no hindrance, I don't think.
Well, I don't know.
He was the Bill Masterton nominee for the Minnesota Wild in 2003. I thought that was the biggest sign of a pendulum coming back.
Yeah.
Given that it wasn't necessarily statistically related, although you still have to have some numbers. And he had a real decent season for the Wild, playing for Jacques Lemaire, who I think maybe there was some kindred spirit there, French-Canadian, whatever. Yeah. Understanding, not that Jacques was ever a high draft pick, but signing, playing for Montreal, you understand. And I thought I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Thrilled for Alex in that. And if I saw him here today, I'd be thrilled to see him again and shake his hand. I'm only being honest. I've worked a couple events with him. It hasn't been the best. I'll watch the show, and it is what it is. You wanted to talk about it? I haven't seen it.
I'm going to recommend it. It's on Prime, and it's called The Chosen One.
Yeah.
And he was chosen.
He was that. Look, it cost Bruce Firestone $100,000. I mean, when he sat in that Quebec bar and said that we're tanking so we can get Deg, and the NHL fined him $100,000. So there you go.
Yeah.
Lots of
Randy
backstory.
Sexton says they weren't taking it, though.
Okay. Sure, just like Pittsburgh wasn't tanking in '84 to get Mario in the turtle race with the New Jersey Devils. Yeah. Oh no, we're not tanking, but we haven't had a win since 4 Christmases ago. But we're not tanking.
All right. Okay. Speaking about 4 Christmases ago.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not Christmas. Okay, but it's time to do This Week in Hockey History.
Woohoo!
Hello, Canada.
Lafleur coming out rather gingerly. Back to Lafleur. Oh!
The bossy shoots. He scores!
This Week in Hockey History.
All right, Liam. It's February the 7th.
Oh, baby. A date that will live in infamy.
Apparently. Okay. So we are doing, welcome back to our This Week in Hockey History.
Just the only...
And so, Liam, I'm asking you, what happened on this date in hockey history? And be kind. Rewind.
Yeah, it's, it's a tough one for you Bruin fans, obviously, with Darryl Sittler's 10-point night. But when you look at the week that was, Chris, as we try and roll out This Week in Hockey and we pick a date, it's impossible not to stop and start or start and stop on February 7, 76. Darryl Sittler, 6 goals, 4 assists, NHL record. No one's even had 9. He's the only guy with 10, likely ever will be. And beat your Boston Bruins, unfortunately, 11-4 that night. And there's so much...
Dave Reese.
Poor Dave Reese, his 13th and final game in the NHL. The guy had some wins earlier. He had shutouts. He didn't look like it was going to all go for naught on that fateful night where so many things went wrong. Sittler caught lightning in a bottle. Don Cherry didn't want to put Jerry Cheevers in, who had just re-signed from the WHA, so he wanted to give him that night off because he knew the Leafs were just in one of those roles. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, Reese got hung out to dry. He was in net for all 11 goals. It was Saturday night, February 7, 76. The Leafs won 11-4. Darryl got 10 points, which means somebody on Toronto got a goal that Darryl didn't get a point on. That was George Ferguson. The goalie, as mentioned, you said Dave Reese. The game started at 8:07, ended at 10:27. Darryl's number is 27. Darryl scored 6 goals that night, giving him 27 on the season. At that time. The Bruins were in second place. The Leafs were in 7th. And you've got all of these configurations to the numbers 2-7 from that night. It's just one of those statistical anomalies.
I have a question. What is it with you? Did you come up with the idea for the fucking TV show Lost with all these number combinations?
I should have.
You know what I mean?
I should have. I'd be worth a few more bucks than I am today, maybe. If I had to come up with an idea like that. I'm always looking for those. Yeah. And they, because in hockey, they seem to be prevalent. And you would think, and I'm sure I'm not a baseball aficionado, but maybe some of the people who are really into those stats could give some similar, but in hockey, they seem like the Bobby Orr one.
Yeah, the number 4.
70 associations. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it in the world. But that night, for Sittler, you've got all those anomalies as well, and to relate it to 2-7, I think it's pretty cool. And even when he broke the record with his 9th point, he got it at the 10:27 mark, I believe it was the third period. So again, 9:27 or 10:27, but it was definitely the 27-second mark. And again, another 27 relation. So it was an unbelievable night, and it'll stand forever in NHL history. You can't imagine with Gretzky not being able to tie it. Despite Connor, I know Sam Gagner 10 years ago had an 8-point game for Edmonton as well, against Chicago as well, with so many big milestone games in Gretzky's career against either Vancouver or Chicago. But no, listen, Chris, you're doing this week in hockey. It's got to start and stop on Sittler's 10-point night. And 76 for him. He had a 5-goal playoff game that year. He scored the Cup winner in overtime, or the Canada Cup winner in overtime that year. He had a 100-point season in the NHL that year. I mean, Darryl Sittler didn't win a Stanley Cup or play in a Stanley Cup final, but he sure as hell had a Hall of Fame career.
I got to tell you, moreover, he was the heartthrob of most girls in Sudbury, Ontario.
I remember you telling me that.
It was the Darryl Sittler number 27 jersey. A lot of chicks had that, and he was. You know what? I have to say that while I don't like the Toronto Maple Leafs, I like a lot of Toronto Maple players.
I think there's a lot of us would be in that category for sure. How do you not like Sittler? You have to. First of all, after 76,
what do you mean you don't like Sittler?
No, how could you not?
How could you not?
How could you not like Sittler? I mean, he played the game fairly. He would fight if need be. He was tough. He was very, very tough. Decent fighter. Obviously, an incredible.
He wore Cooperalls for Christ's sake.
He wore Cooperalls. He was one of the guys. Yeah, one of the guys. He was on the Flyers at that time, and when they wore them with the Hartford Whalers, only 2 teams to wear that aborted mess. And Darryl's part of that history too. So he's he got traded. When he got traded to the Flyers, he recorded his 1,000th point in the NHL to the day. The day after the trade. He was a member of the Flyers when he recorded it. But just a terrible, terrible split with the Leafs and Harold Ballard. Just absolutely terrible. Ripped the C off.
You're saying that something ended poorly with Harold Ballard?
I know, shocking news.
Yeah. All right, well, listen, that was this week in hockey history. That was this week in hockey history. But I'm going to add to that.
Yeah.
Because that guy there is turning 90 years old.
Yep.
90 years old is Don Cherry.
Yep.
And
February 5th.
February 5th. Okay, so past, but it was still this week-ish. You know what I mean? February 5th.
Well, throw a shout out anyway. I put a post up on social media. It just pinged like crazy.
Yeah, you did it?
Yeah, thousands.
Everybody loves Don Cherry.
Not everybody. Oh, no. The comments are so reprehensible on social media.
What would they say? What did they say?
Oh, they say every time he's trending, there's a segment of the population go on and say, damn, I thought he was dead. You know, so really, really reprehensible stuff.
But what are they, like, why do they think he was?
Well, because they call him a misogynist, racist, and xenophobe, you know, old fogey, stayed past his prime, and, you know, this, that, and everything else. And, you know, largely fueled by how he was dismissed from Hockey Night in Canada. So,
you know what? I mean, here's the thing. Okay. I as a entertainer, which he was, let's face it, he was a broadcaster, but he was there for entertainment value, right?
Yeah.
He's going to say things that are provocative, that he's going to push the envelope to do those things. Now, all that being said, he liked his Canadian players, okay?
Yeah.
And and he has some history with, you know, the international side of the game not being pleasant. Okay? So maybe that has shaped part of his view. I never thought of him, and I could be wrong, but you know what? I don't think of him as a racist. Okay? I really don't. I can't, and I can't take a look at a 90-year-old person who grew up in a very different era with very different surroundings around them and label them like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you were going on about a diatribe last week or a couple of weeks ago about about people hiding behind their keyboards and saying these things and you know what I mean. They don't know the thing, but you know what? I would like to say this, not in a vicious way, but these people who make judgments of other people, okay, who are going to judge somebody from history, okay, or from another time with the same knowledge and and maturity and I don't know, essence that we have today. You cannot, if you go to somebody who has never seen a car, 1880 whatever, let's say 1880.
The shooting of the OK Corral?
Was that what it was?
October 26th, 1881.
All right. So, Buddy shows up in a Tesla, right?
If the McCrorys had had a Tesla, you know, the Earps and
the point is, they're
Doc Holliday may have turned around.
But they're two different. You cannot judge those people the same way you judge the
No, but he was judged that night, and what he said was wrong. And he.
You know what? No, I'm gonna actually defend him because what he said was misconstrued.
No, it wasn't.
He said no. Just hear me out for a second.
I know, because what you're about to say, you're going to get wrong.
Why?
Because you're with the majority who don't actually know what he said and how he said it. You're going to get it wrong, but go ahead.
Okay, well, you know what? I did see it now from my recollection.
Yeah.
Okay, he was talking about a poppy. He was talking about Remembrance Day.
Yes.
Okay, and he said that these people who come here want our milk and honey and all that stuff, okay? But they don't want to respect, okay, we're a poppy. Basically, that was the whole idea behind it. He misspoke. I'm not saying that what he said was eloquent or articulate.
No, of course not.
Or what he said was, you know what I mean? But I think the spirit in what he was saying was not anti any particular race or group of people. I think it was listen, you're either with us or against us. You're going to come to Canada, you become a Canadian, and you become part of it. And Phil Esposito said the same thing. Now, granted, he's also over 80, okay? Imagine that, Okay?
Yeah.
A thought process where somebody believes that if you are, and we welcome people to our country, okay?
Yeah.
But you know what? Then embrace our way of life, because that is why. And I think that was the spirit in which he said it.
No, first of all, it wasn't these people, it was you people. So
Okay.
fundamentally, you're wrong right off the start. You're fundamentally wrong in a much more significant way, in that he definitely misspoke. And he definitely, the entire diatribe that led up to that. First of all, I have written a 2-part backstory to what happened, in my opinion. And it's published, it's on social media, and anybody watching that would like to see it, you message me and I'll send it to you. Because when Grapes comes up in conversation, as I travel the country doing trivia or doing gigs, and he comes up in conversation and we go to that date, and the majority of people have it incorrectly as to what went down that night, as to why it went down, as to what happened with Ron McLean, as to what happened with Don when he misspoke, and what he should have said. And had he been given the opportunity to come back on the air, which he was requesting to do, and was summarily not given that opportunity because they did want to put certain language and verbiage in his mouth, which we do not know to this day what that was.
Right.
But he refused to do it, so they said, we're done. And ironically, on all days to be dismissed, he was dismissed on Remembrance Day in 2019.
So I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
So and you corrected me, and it wasn't these people.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was you people.
Yeah.
So he was
you
speaking,
people who come here. So he identified immigrants, which
Well,
was
so he said you people.
yes.
So we're talking. This is more of an issue with pronouns then. Just want to point that out.
Listen,
he was the first pronoun guy.
He screwed up, and he knows he did, which is why he
But
wanted to
I have
go
a
on the
question.
air.
Is it now? And in it,
What he should have said, Chris,
Yeah.
was anybody and everybody in Canada.
Right.
He should not have singled out immigrants. And if you read my
I
story,
see what you're saying. You're saying, okay, and you're saying that.
do you remember
everybody?
how the Coach's Corner started that night? No, you don't.
No, I don't know. I don't. And
Nobody watching this does. I'm the only one who remembers. I know the date. I know what happened November 2nd. And I know what happened the next week, November 9th. That never, ever, 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 ever happened before in the 33 years that he did Coach's Corner.
Well, so tell us.
Jesus. Okay. He ran the bit with him at the grave site in France, which is so powerful and so amazing. Now, that obviously wasn't done every single year. That started relatively well into his domain. Tenure at Coach's Corner. But the deal, or what Grapes would do, he would run that always on the Saturday closest to November 11th.
Right.
No matter which Saturday. He ran that year on November 2nd, Saturday, November 2nd. And right away, I'm going, why is he running this now? There's another Saturday. Next Saturday is November 9th.
So do you think he made a mistake?
No.
On the dates?
Oh, no. Oh, no. No. I think, look, I'm going to give away some of what I wrote. Not that I was paid for it, so I don't care. I just wrote my own opinion. I believe he was told at the start of the season that it was going to be his last year.
Okay.
And I think because you have to remember, that came out publicly from Steve Simmons. Steve Simmons put out in August a tweet that Don Cherry did not have a contract for the season, which blew up Twitter. Right? 98% people like myself and you, fans of Grapes, wanting him back on, wondering, what the hell's going on? What do you mean he doesn't have a contract? That forced Don to come on Twitter, which he did through Kathy there, his personal assistant, and as he alluded to before, that he just gives her the ideas and tells her what to type. She puts it in. He's not a Twitter user himself. But it didn't happen that day, the next day, or the next day. It was a few days later because I believe that he did not have a contract.
Right.
And I believe he went to the boys at Rogers and said, hey, like Steve Simmons somebody's spilt the beans here, and now let's get a deal. Let's get it done. I want to go on and say I'm coming back. Oh, yeah, Don. That's just my theory. Yeah, Grapes, about that. So let's see. You're 86, turning 87. Oh, we're going to make this one more year. Sound good, Don? One more year, and then that's it. And I believe this is the 5th executive producers of Hockey Night in Canada that have been there in Don's tenure as on Coach's Corner. And I don't think he liked that one bit.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing.
I don't think he liked that.
And I'll be honest, I don't like it one bit either.
This is again just my theory.
But you know what? You don't cancel a fucking winning thing.
But
Like,
it wasn't winning anymore. The ratings had gone down. Look, you're getting
Listen,
all sorts
have
of
you seen the
other
ratings
stuff.
now?
No, I know. It doesn't matter. The fact is that, in my opinion, again, he's not the same guy after Rose died. The nature of the show changed. He's way too focused on the time. Always complaining to Ron. What do you mean? It's almost over. Like, Graves, say your 3 points and get out of Dodge. He had 7 minutes. He never took 7. He always took 8. He pushed it to 8, sometimes 9. That's what happened that night. Ron McLean's got the thing in his ear. Producers are screaming at him. He's not even listening to Don. First of all, he ran the clip from the funeral, from the gravesite on the 2nd, which he's never, ever done before. He runs it again on the 9th. I watched it. As I wrote that day, I was at a celebration of life for a good friend of mine's 50-year-old sister that passed away. You know where we were? We were at a Legion.
Right.
We were at a Legion in Bell's Corners. And we went in there where the average age at the celebration of life was probably 65 to 70. Average age. I counted about 8 poppies out of 50 people in there. You know why? Because even when Tommy and I were walking into that thing, I said, Heather, where's your poppy? He said, where's yours? I went, oh, shit, man, they must have fallen off. So we went in, we threw $5 in the thing and threw 2 more poppies on. There were tons of men and women who would have had siblings or relatives that fought in the war, that absolutely support veterans to the nth degree. They're having a celebration of life at the Legion, and the majority of people in there didn't have a poppy on.
Well,
What Graves needed to say that night was all Canadians should wear a poppy. And furthermore, as he went on the diatribe after he did some hockey analysis and then very quickly turned his attention to repeating what he had done the week before, only he wrapped it up a degree, he went right after his inference. Like, you have to be an idiot not to know who he was talking about.
But immigrants come from all over, and immigrants are from all kinds. My family came, immigrants.
My dad was an immigrant.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't matter. That's not what he was
so,
talking about.
So what was he talking about? Is my question. What are you saying?
Come on, really?
Honest to God, here's the thing.
He's talking about driving from Toronto to Mississauga and the type of people he was seeing on the street. He said that publicly in Coach's Corner. He's talking about a specific people, Chris.
So a specific
and then he said,
demographic.
yes, he was. And then you people who come here, he couldn't have singled it out more. I mean, the cancel culture society had a road paved with gold to light up the phone lines and start the process where finally, after all these years, and the thing is, where now, to your point from 7 or 8 minutes ago, the ratings have plummeted for the intermissions, because the people who largely forced the hands of Rogers to dismiss Grapes are not hockey fans.
No.
They're not hockey fans. They weren't watching anyway. So they just wanted him out. And so the ones that were left are guys like you and me going, come on. Like, Grapes is 86. He's an old man yelling at the cloud. Give him a rap on the knuckles. Let him go on and say, I meant all Canadians, and get on with the rest of however. I mean, at some point, Coach's Corner was going to end, I'm assuming. You didn't expect him to be doing it until he was 90, did you?
Well, if he could.
Okay, well,
I have a
did
question.
you watch them?
No, but then,
I mean, he couldn't even talk.
Okay, so let me ask you this, though. Okay, you're an old man, and...
I am.
No, you are.
I mean, I'm in my 60s, so I'm older.
You are.
for sure.
Listen, you are. Listen, next year you won't be on the U65 team.
No.
Okay.
No.
So actually, not even this year.
3
It's
months.
this year.
Yeah.
That's right. So you're going to be like no longer qualified for the U65 team.
No.
You got to be in the U80 team.
That's
at that
right.
point.
Well,
Okay.
90
so,
and over.
So listen. So at that point, but when are you going to stop? And I don't see a time that you're going to stop.
Stop
because
what?
Exactly.
Stop what, though?
Doing what you love, which is commenting, which is hockey trivia, which is all that. So
No,
don't tell me.
not at
don't tell me-
64. I'm not saying that.
No, but you know what?
Look, they had to force Bob Cole out
Okay. Yes,
right?
they did. Yeah.
because he couldn't even get the names right anymore.
Well,
you know,
they were hard to
I mean,
pronounce,
look,
let's be fair.
Grapes was having trouble finishing his thoughts in Coach's Corner, and that's being gracious to say. Not only that, his voice was going. Every week, he had a hard time physically. These are just physical things that were happening with him. Like, at some point in time, there comes a time.
So when do we get rid of Joe Biden because of the same things.
Well,
when do we get rid of people? No, but this
I don't know. I don't know.
I you know what? I look at that.
I'm not saying you get rid of them,
I
but
call ageism.
I
call
don't.
ageism.
Well, I disagree. I don't think they did the wrong thing in saying, and I don't even know that they did. This is just speculation on my part that I think because when Steve Simmons, who's pretty connected, and most people hate him, Steve Simmons said Grapes didn't have a contract, I believe he was right. And I believe Don contacted Rogers and said, let's get it going. And they did, and I think they told him one more year. And I think he said to himself, oh yeah, I'll just see how that works here, boys. I'll go out on my terms. I'm not saying he circled the date, but coincidentally, and maybe
he was going to push the envelope as much as he could in his final years.
And look, he's been on the Poppy thing for a while. This isn't his first time.
That's right.
But this particular time, he really, if he hadn't have said all what he did in leading up to the you people who come here, then that's the thing. It's not just you people. He said you people who come here. Like he 1,000% identified immigrants when what he really should have said. And I absolutely substantiated that by writing about being in a legion that day with the majority of people not wearing a poppy.
And that's wrong. There's no question.
No, it's wrong, Chris, to you and I, because everybody should put a poppy on minimally that day, if not leading up to it. But if those people who are in their 70s and 80s, for whatever reason, didn't want to put one on, they're no less Canadian to me.
Well, no, but at the same time, we don't do enough flag waving in this country.
That's just the fucking nature of Canada.
You know,
it's been that way forever.
We look
at the people to the south of us, and the States are always going to be Old Glory, front and center 24/7. We don't do it here, although periodically. And then if we do too much of it, our neighbors are going to go, hey, settle down.
I know.
You know?
Well, okay.
That's the way we are here. Grapes was never that way, right? No. Grapes was our champion. Grapes was Canada first to a fault, but where's the fault? There was no fault. No, I love it. I loved it. I loved it forever. But I knew that night when I watched it, and I watched it intently because of November 2nd. The week before, I said, how's this going to go? Because he ran the gravesite thing the week before, which he'd never done 2 weeks in a row, ever. So now he's running it again, and that led into it. And I think he said, okay, I'm going to hammer some people here. And he did. Not ever, I'm sure, expecting how this thing was going to blow up. And then originally, and again, I know I'm the only one who remembers all this. Originally, he absolutely stuck to his guns. And he wasn't backing down. He took nothing back and everything else. Well, guess what? 24 hours after that, Don Cherry was backing down. And he was willing to go back on again. And he was giving interviews to Joel Warrington, who became his conduit, his media conduit in the Toronto Sun. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to get back on and have an opportunity. And then when he was dismissed, and Joe went back to him and said, what happened? And yeah, they gave me the language, and I didn't agree with it. So they said, that's it, called it a day. And then as his old expression is, toodaloo, toodaloo, that's it. So he went out on his sword, he went out on his shield, he went out the way we all probably wanted Don Cherry to go. Unfortunately, it wasn't for going crazy about a fight or a brawl or something on the ice. It was off the ice, and it brought in immigrants, which is, as we know, a Canadian thing. Line the boats up and bring them all in. And you know,
well, you don't sound like you're happy about it.
I am happy about it. It's a Canadian way. But I mean, my dad was an immigrant, so it's the Canadian way. And the bottom line is, Grape Smith spoke, and he paid the ultimate price.
So let me go on from there, because you know, I again say we cannot judge people who are 90 years old, who were born, you know what I mean, in a...
No, you can be judged if you're in a national TV format. You can be judged.
Well, and you know what? And then the other question
is... He was judged.
And is at what point... Okay, and this is just a freedom of speech argument, okay? At what point do we allow people, whether you like it or not, to say what they think, to say what they feel? And I think there are a lot of people who would like to say something about many different things, but are afraid. And when we have an environment...
Politically correct.
That's right. When we have an environment of fear, of people to say something, that's wrong in this country. That's wrong in any country. But when you have an environment of being afraid of saying something that you believe or that's on your mind or what have you, there's something wrong. So happy birthday to Don Cherry.
Yeah.
I guess. At the end of the day, don't drink and drive. Okay, so that was a rabbit hole. So this is the rabbit hole episode. What else are we going to talk about? Did we introduced? We did all this stuff. You know what? This is time to wrap up our show.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I for one would like to thank you for joining us, watching us, sharing us, liking us, sharing us with your friends, your family. For all those Europeans and stuff, you want to send any immigrants you want to get throw our way to watch the show. We like them too. We're non-discriminatory here.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're going to another country next fall, so
We are going. Yeah, it's our home country though. That's the thing.
Okay, well,
The
but it's
thing
not.
about- What do you
We're
mean it's not?
Canadians. We're not from Ireland. We're Canadians.
You're right. You know
People
what?
say
You're
all
right.
the time, Liam, you're Irish. No, I'm not. I'm Canadian. My dad
That's
was
right.
Irish.
You're a Canadian Irishman, as
Yeah,
as
well,
Phil
I don't
would say.
even agree with that. I know he
But-
said it. He can say it, but I don't say it. I'm Canadian. My dad was Irish. My ancestry is Irish.
Your
My
ancestry.
nationality is Canadian.
That's right. Now, what if you had Irish citizenship?
What
You could
if?
say you were Irish too.
But I
Well, you
could
should
just,
do it.
but
Your
I-
dad was Irish. You can become an Irish citizen.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even at this age.
Even at this age. Yeah.
Okay.
You're still U65.
I only got a few months.
Yeah. You have a few
I
months
better
to get
reply.
on with it. Get on with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't have it. I'm another generation.
I'd rather get a
separate.
Nexus before my Irish citizenship, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll get that. It's nice
Yeah.
because if you get through a Nexus line, you don't have to take your shoes off.
Yeah, I know, and
You know what
I
I mean?
always wear the boots, right? So it takes
And you don't
a
have to
little
take
longer.
you don't even have to take your laptop out.
Which,
If it's-
well, I tell you, I could write a story just about the
Our
trials
going
and
through
tribulations
security.
of our traveling,
Yeah.
let alone the Air Canada woes, but just
Yeah.
going through various securities. And
Well, you know
all
what? Just so we
what
know, I
happened.
just want to be, for the record, okay, I will take everything back that I've ever said about Air Canada, every negative thing,
Yeah.
if you sponsor our show.
There you go.
And, this, I just want to point out, I can be bought. Okay, I want you to understand that I am for
Yeah.
sale.
Could sponsor This Week in Hockey.
They could sponsor This Week in Hockey.
That's what Air
know what I
Canada
mean?
should do.
They should.
Yeah.
They should. I mean, listen, there's nothing.
Then we will love them endlessly.
So, all right. Well, this has been Offside with Hawes and McGuire. I'm Hawes.
I'm McGuire. G'day.